Hi, so we're going to create two virtual machines using VMSS with a load balancer on the CLI. So let's do that now. So we're back on the Azure portal and we need to go to Cloud Shell to use the CLI. So click on Cloud Shell and we'll just raise this up. And now we're on Bash on the Cloud Shell. So we're using Bash. And first of all, we need to create the resource group because that's where our VMSS, the virtual machines, are going to be placed under. So we need to create the resource group, the create resource group command with this group sub command, and then we have the create, which is the action, and the name of the resource group will be resource group lab 06, and our location will be West Europe. So we can copy this, come to the bash terminal and paste. And we can as well use L if we don't want to use the long location. So let's press enter, and now we can see that our resource group has been created. So we can find that out by saying AZ group and list, and we want it ordered, and we can see that our resource group has been created. That's the RG lab 06. So next we need to create our virtual machine skill set, and we need to specify some of the properties of the skill set. But before we do that, we first need to write the bash script that would install the Apache services into the virtual machines. So let me go back to where I have my script commands, and we can see here is create the bash script in .txt, that's a text file, and we're going to run it as a custom data. So remember, in our previous videos we deployed the cloud init script to install the Apache automatically when the virtual machines were created by the VMSS. So this time we're using the custom data. We're going to save this and deploy it on bash. So what this basically is saying is that we are going to update the operating system to accommodate the Apache services, and then we install the Apache software itself. Then we are going to write this as the content for the index.html file in the Apache server. So it's going to be this server was deployed by VMSS on CLI. Then we have the hostname variable, which will specify the host name of the virtual machine, and that's what we're going to do. So let's copy that, and we'll copy, and we'll come back, and we want to open our editor and paste that in. So we're going to save it just directly, and we're going to save here. And remember, we need to call the file bash script.txt because we are going to call it when we are creating with the skill set. So we copy that, come back, and we save that. And once we're done, we'll close the editor, and let's find out if our bash script has been saved. So we'll just list, and now we can see our bash script.txt, and let's cut into to see the content. And now we can see that the content is exactly what we put into it. So once we're done with that, then we can now run our VMSS command script. Let's do that so that we can deploy the virtual machine. So the basic thing here is the VMS command to create. Then we'll specify the resource group as RG lab 06, Then we specify the name of the VMSS. That's what we have, VMSS Lab 06. Then the image, which is Ubuntu operating system, will use. Then the size, which is standard B1S. Then we deploy the bash script to create the Apache service and set up the web server. Then we set the upgrade policy mode to automatic, and then we put our username and password for the virtual machines. So let's copy that and come back here and paste it to deploy our VMSS. I will give it some time. It's currently running. So our VMSS has been deployed, and let's find that out. So AZ, and we'll say VMSS list. And now we can see that our VMSS has been created with a resource group, in the resource group and in West Europe. So let's go to the portal and let's confirm that. So we'll go to skill sets and virtual machine skill sets. And we can now confirm that our skill set has been created with 2 instances. So let's go in and see. And we can see it's currently running. It has an IP address created, and we can also check the instances, and we can see the instances are currently deployed and running. So we also need to check the load balancing rule and the load balancer if any is created, and we can confirm here that our load balancer has been created automatically when we were creating the VMSS. So if we click into it, we can see that we have our public IP address, which is used by the VMSS. And if we come to check the front-end IP configuration, we can see it's the same. The backend pool, and we can see we have our backend pool created, as we can see here, VMSS this. And let's check the health probe. We don't have a health probe. Load balancing rule we don't have. So we're going to create the load balancing rule for the VMSS, and we need to take note of the backend pool, and we also need to take note of the IP configuration when we are doing that. So let's go back to the bash terminal, and we're going to use these commands. That's to add balancing rule to the load balancer to route HTTP traffic. So we're going to use the AZ major command, and then we have the sub command network. So it's going to the network, then creating a load balancer, and this time is creating the rule, and it says create. Because the load balancer has already been created. So our resource group is currently existing, so it will access that. Then the name of the load balancing rule is what we would set. Then the load balancer name is what we already have. If you go back here and load balancer, we can see VMSS Lab 06 LB that was created for us, and that's what we put here. Then the backend pool name, which is what we also got from what was created for us, that's the VMSS Lab 06 LBBE pool. That's the backend pool. So we would confirm that, and it's VMSS Lab 06, the same thing we put here. Then the backend port we're creating is 80. The front-end IP name is what we have in the front-end IP configuration. So we took this and that's what we're using. Then the front end port is 80 and protocol TCP. So with this, we would allow traffic through the balancer to the virtual machines. So let's copy that, and we'll go back to the bash terminal, and we're going to paste that and press enter. And now the load balancer rule has been created. So we'll go back to the portal and load balancers. We select the load balancer we have, and let's see front end the same, back end the same, health probe none yet, and load balancing rule which we just created, and we can see the details on that. So currently we should be able to access the virtual machines. We'll simply use the name of the public IP that we can get from when we type public IP addresses, and this is the one that is currently created. So we can simply copy this, and if we look into it, is exactly what we have for the load balancer. So we'll use this name, and if we scroll up, and we'll use this command AZ network public IP to show, and we'll specify resource group and the name which we just saw, and we query that to get it. So let's copy that command, and we come back here and we paste it, and we can see it gives us the IP address VMSS is using. So let's copy that, and we want to paste it on our browser. So paste that, and we can see now that it's using the host 3 which we specified on our custom code. So let's refresh, and now we can see that we're using the second virtual machine, the host 2. So we've been able to deploy the VMSS and the load balancer from the command line interface.